Hello, Chain Gang. Welcome back to the 4 Chains and a very unique and special edition of Top 5 Friday. As you know, we take our lists from suggestions that people make in the comment on YouTube for videos. And if you saw our video on the 5 most influential world leaders, you know that I had a shooting deadline and had to do it on a lot of cough and cold medicine, and I referred to Napoleon Bonaparte as Napoleon Dynamite. And of course, we weren't going to pass up an opportunity to give a plug to our friend Diedrich Bader, who was the martial arts instructor Rex in Napoleon Dynamite, and that prompted a lot of people to be like, hey, why don't you do the 5 best actors of all time from T.C. Williams High School. Now, if you know T.C. Williams High School, it is for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you saw the movie Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington, that is T.C. Williams High School. It is the high school that Angie and I both attended. And if you know it for a reason other than that, it's because of the person primarily responsible for this list. And her name is Jerry Fillmore. Jerry Fillmore was the drama teacher and the director of the plays for not that long a period of time in retrospect, but in the short time that she was doing this, she produced an enormous amount of professional actors who are still very successful professional actors today. And so she certainly deserves a shout out for being one of the 2 reasons people know T.C. Williams nationally. I would say that there's a couple other people that I want to mention on this list that are not going to make the top 5. One of them is Casey Wilson. We needed reasons to eliminate everybody, and the request was for top 5 actors, and she's an actress, but I want to give her props. If you don't know the name, you know the face. She was a cast member on Saturday Night Live for a couple of seasons, and she has done a ton of, I would say, movies and television shows since then. She was in Bride Wars, which was a very successful movie, and Gone Girl. So she has some range. She's not just comedy there. In addition to all, you can look her up on IMDb. I would actually hope you would look up all these people on IMDb. In addition to all her guest appearances, she was a regular cast member on the show Happy Endings. And there was a show Don Cheadle did on Showtime called Black Monday that she was also a regular cast member. The latest thing that I saw her on was The Shrink Next Door with Will Ferrell, if you have that streaming option. And the second is a guy I actually kind of want to put in the number 1 position. He doesn't make the top 5 because he does a lot of writing now, and he doesn't have the acting resume that the other people have. But you could make the argument that 50 years from now, he will be the most remembered. And his name is Kieran Mulroney. Kieran is, he did some acting roles, but the one role that you will know him from is he was Timothy in the Seinfeld episode called The Implant. Now, that might not sound familiar to you because I think most people think that episode, because of Kieran's performance, is called Double Dipping. Kieran is the person who caught George Costanza double dipping, and I just feel like that performance was so iconic that it entered a phrase into the lexicon. I think you assume double dipping has always been a thing. No, it's a thing because of Kieran and that performance. And so I feel like there's an argument he should be number 1. I am biased. Kieran is a great guy. He choreographed the night that Angie and I got engaged. It's going to shock the viewers that at that age I was not the naturally romantic fella that I am today. And I didn't know what to do. And Kieran had just been engaged. So I called him and he just decided, Jim, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do and you're going to do it and that's it. And boy, I was more than willing, and the night worked out perfectly. So thank you, Kieran. We are still married today, as you've seen who watch our videos, and I really appreciate it. Another person who's not on this list is me. I want to make very clear that I know what's coming because of these comments. I am not an actor. I have never been an actor. I am a guy who has a bunch of friends who are actors, and they have put me in some stuff. So please don't get what I did confused with what they did. I mean, like, you know, I was on LA Law, but don't get confused. I did not audition for LA Law. I delivered pizzas at night for Domino's, and during the day I didn't do anything, and they knew I was available, and some guy got a much larger role on China Beach. And so they called me and asked if I could be there in an hour, and I was. So that's how that happened. I did a Pepsi commercial that ran for 4 years, which Domino's was not happy with because they were on Coke at the time, but it was one of these situations where I asked my famous friends to get me an audition because it was supposed to be for a Madonna Pepsi commercial, and I was auditioning for her boyfriend. And I guess I did too good because they gave me my own commercial that was the concept of the guy who Barry Levinson, who directed Rain Man and Diner. And when he was doing Diner, he had this idea for a Pepsi commercial in a diner. And so I did that, but you know, Angie will probably put up a clip from that Pepsi commercial. Everybody in that thing is famous except for me. Yeah, no, I'm not that. I think that the reason people think that I did acting or something is just when I was an assistant manager for Domino's Pizza, they were casting for one of those after-school special type things for somebody who will sexually harass an employee, if you've seen those specials they used to interrupt Oprah with. And they asked me to do it, and I did it, and the person I harassed is Kerry Washington. So I'm a answer to a trivia question, who was Kerry Washington's first co-star, but I want to make very clear, I do not do what any of these people do at all. And let's just dive into who those people are. Number 5 is Donnell Rollins. Oh man. I mean, is there a person on the planet that doesn't love this guy? You know, he's a legitimate actor. He was on 4 episodes of The Wire. If you saw our video on the 5 greatest television dramas of all time, well, I guess I've ruined one of the choices. But yeah, he was on that, so that definitely counts for something. But let's just face it. The reason he's on this list is he did 18 episodes of The Chappelle Show, which, if you haven't seen that, you need to get to it right away. You know, he did this character beautiful, the guy with the jerry curl, I guess the pimp with the jerry curl and the play a haters ball, and that wound up being so popular. It had an extended shelf life. My favorite, and I'm guessing yours, is Ashy Larry in the World Series of Dice skit. I mean, what you need to do is get some lotion. And I mean, we saw that clip so many times. It just is never gonna die. He'd be higher on this list, I guess, but most of his work is stand-up comedy. He does the DC area all the time, and I suggest checking him out. Number 4, Jason Harner. I would say, based on how they signed our yearbook, that Jason is a bigger fan of my wife Angie than he is of me, and it's completely understandable. You know, Jason and I had a misunderstanding, which in retrospect I was very, very wrong. A ton of people in school had told me something that was true, and Jason decided to take a hit and not, you know, rat anybody out there. But Jason, I apologize. You're a great guy and a great actor, and certainly deserving of number 4 on this list. If you don't know his name, that's just because he's such a great actor. I mean, he just fits like a glove into these roles so well that people just think of them as that character and aren't even kind of aware this is an actor guy doing it. And that's the true, I think that's a true standard for who's a great actor. I guess the role that he might be most known for is Roy Petty, the FBI officer in Ozark. He was just outstanding in that, but he was in a bunch of iconic shows. He was Toby in The Walking Dead, and he was Commander Mackenzie in The Handmaid's Tale. The first role he did where I was just really, really excited for him is he was Varric on a season of Ray Donovan, and that was a really good character. I guess a lot of people, speaking of Kerry Washington, I guess I should mention that he also has worked with Kerry Washington, did a 3-episode arc on Scandal. He played Ian. And in terms of like his acting ability, he's does a lot of theater, and you know, the reviews are always outstanding. He actually won an Obie for Hedda Gabler. That was in 2004 5. You can troll me if I'm wrong about that. So, Jason, you're a great actor, and I owe you a meal, and next time I see you, I'll definitely treat for that. Number 3, Charles Esten. I don't think he expects me to call him Charles here. I think if you go to TC, you can call him Chip. Full disclosure, I mean, I don't think this is the difference between this list and every other list is most lists I just really pride myself on the objectiveness, because I think that when media outlets do lists, yeah, they want the list to be accurate, but they also have a bunch of other competing priorities that dilute the accuracy of these lists. This is the only time where that's going to be the case for me, because Angie and I know all these people, and so we can't be biased. But Chip's been very great to my daughter. Chip's he's on this list for acting, but he's also a very successful country musician and songwriter. He's a good friend also of John Leary. John and Mo are good friends, and John and Kira opened for him at the Birchmere, and so I just really appreciate how good he is. He's just like all the people from TC. They're just down-to-earth guys, and they don't really change when they become famous at all. I mean, it's deceptive with Donnell, because Donnell's phrase he's known for the most for is "I'm rich, biatch," but that's not a reflection on who he is as a real person. Chip's done movies. He was in The Postman. He got a lot of critical acclaim for that. He did one season of Party of Five. I will admit I didn't see that. If I find out a TC person is in something, I obviously watch it, but I wasn't a Party of Five guy. He played Luke, apparently. I did see him in The Office. He played John Porter. He was Ray Henry on Big Love, which I also saw. The show he's currently on is Outer Banks, and every time a new season of Outer Banks comes out, it flies right to #1 on the Netflix viewership. He plays Ward. Most people watching this know him for playing Deacon Claiborne on Nashville. He was basically the star of Nashville for the whole time, and he'll be able to tour forever because of that. His latest song we're going to put up here. He just released it, and it has millions of views, and I don't want to get the amount of million wrong, so I'm going to have Angie put up the million views, but how many million it's been, but go ahead and download it. All his stuff is great. Let's move to number 2, and that is Diedrich Bader. If you went to T.C. Williams, he performed there as Carl Bader, but he is... There was a scene in Los Angeles where all of the acting people went to see him in a play. I'm not even sure he got paid for this play. It was a very small theater. But afterwards, when we were waiting for him, everybody there was already super successful, but we all agreed he's the best actor that's ever come out of T.C. Williams. If this was just acting ability and not overall greatness, I think I'd put him #1. And I don't think the public has really seen what a great actor he is. Financially, he's set. He does more voiceover work than anybody on the planet. I don't think there's a single animated show that he doesn't do the voice for, certainly not if it has superheroes. But a lot of these shows he does multiple voices, like Harley Quinn and Masters of the Universe. He's playing tons of characters. So, he does just fine with that. He doesn't have to act, but he does. The first thing I remember him being on when we all lived out there was Cheers, and Cheers was such a great show, and the fact that he got a part on that was just, everybody was so pumped up about it, and that wound up getting him the lead in the Beverly Hillbillies movie. It wasn't a great movie, but he played Jethro, and he was the best thing in it. And then he just continued to be iconic. He's an iconic actor. He was Lawrence in Office Space. If you haven't seen that, it might not mean anything, but people who are Office Space fans are all of them are devoted Lawrence fans. He's the next door neighbor that offers the great advice. And then it got even more iconic. We mentioned it before. He played Rex in Napoleon Dynamite, the greatest martial arts instructor of all time, with Pat Morita aside. In terms of acting success, I guess the #1 would be he played Oswald for 233 episodes of The Drew Carey Show. So you don't see that a whole lot. He was Bill Erickson for 5 seasons on Veep, one of my favorite comedies of all time. And he just, after that, he got his own show, American Housewife. He's the male lead in that, Greg. He did all 103 episodes of that. He was rich on Better Things for 16 episodes. You get the idea. He is going to be a working actor forever. I don't know what his favorite role is. What? Really? Well, that is, apparently I'm being told his favorite role ever was in the Woody Allen play Don't Drink the Water alongside Jim Moran. Oh my God. Thank you, Diedrich. That is an honor. I didn't realize you had tweeted that out recently. Okay. That leads us to number one. I guess this list would be invalidated if I didn't put him number one. The only other argument would be his brother, Kieran, and that is Dylan McDermott. I'm just kidding. Maybe, Dermot, don't hate me for that. Come on, there's no way I could do that. It's become a joke with T.C. Williams people. It wasn't a joke for me. I was very territorial when people would confuse Dermot with Dylan McDermott, Dermot Mulroney with Dylan McDermott. I would lose my mind. I just felt like Dermot deserved his own place, but it just became such a funny thing. Saturday Night Live did a game show hosted by Bill Hader, and it was, you just had to guess whether somebody was Dylan McDermott or Dermot Mulroney, and they brought Dermot out for a guest spot on that sketch, so that was really cool. So I think he kind of embraces it now. Just going back, Dermot went to Northwestern, and when he was at TC, he was in a couple of plays, but he wasn't like the lead in all the plays as you would expect. But I remember hearing after Northwestern, he got into a movie about baseball called Long Gone. And we were like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And it was a good movie. And then he just started getting roles. And then he became he became a star when he was in Young Guns. There was more famous people, Emilio Estevez and stuff like that in Young Guns, but I think it's fair to say that people thought his character was the best one on there. And that kind of gave him all kinds of opportunity. And of course, he starred with Julia Roberts and Cameron Diaz in My Best Friend's Wedding. I think that his IMDb page will always say Dermot Mulroney, My Best Friend's Wedding, but, I hope he's happy about that movie was so iconic and people have such an emotional attention to it. Sometimes people get frustrated when they've done a bunch of stuff as Dermot has and they're associated with one project, but hopefully when he looks back, he will certainly appreciate it. He did then they just started putting him with other like big stars. He did a movie with his brother Kieran called Career Opportunities with future Academy Award winner Jennifer Connelly. And then he did The Safety of Objects with Glenn Close. And then, he got to be in a movie with Jack. He did About Schmidt with Jack Nicholson. And then it was like 2005, Hollywood decided, okay, these movies are all doing well. Let's give this guy a shot, put his name above the title and see what happens. And there was at least a couple of movies where I feel like he was the one with the responsibility for selling it. It was The Wedding Date with Deborah Messing. And then he did this thing, The Family Stone. And, those movies were fine, but they weren't big hits. And Hollywood kind of, I think, decided, hey, maybe he's not the name above the title guy. But I felt like that was a blessing in disguise because he took a pause for about a year and only worked a little bit. And he made himself into a great actor. And I'd love to ask him what was the turning point. And I'm thinking maybe it was that because he just all of a sudden you start seeing him things go, wow, Dermot's great. Look at August Osage County. That's the movie that he reunited with Julia Roberts in, but it's also got Meryl Streep and Ewan McGregor and Juliette Lewis and just all these great actors, and Dermot holds his own. That's the point where I was just convinced, hey, this guy's a great actor now. I guess if I had to pick one project of his to prove to you that Dermot Mulroney is a great actor, I would say Shameless. He played, let me see if I can look it up here. He played, he played Sean Pierce in Shameless. I've got a note here. My buddy Jerry, his favorite movie that Dermot did was Dirty Grandpa with Robert De Niro, and I can't remember the teenage ingenue in that. But Dermot's really great at it, and that's an underrated movie if you haven't seen that. But, Sean Pierce in Shameless, he just plays a bunch of notes really, really well. And I think that the character was planned on being short-term and wound up coming over extra seasons because he was just a unique acting talent. And that is maybe the role that pushes him up to number 1 on this list. So, shout out to Jerry Fillmore for producing this unbelievable crowd. Shout out to you guys for requesting this list. If you want to see any other top 5 lists, you just put it in the comments and we will get it done for you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the 4 Chains and Top 5 Friday, and we will see you next Friday.